Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, everybody. It's Dave Fortson from the LOA and Regen teams. Really excited to have you here. We're just starting to file in. Gregory's on his way over. I'm going to extend some speaker invitations to some of our Gitcoin grant round folks. I'm going to have Eco Token come up and go wrangle some people. So stand by just for another minute. Welcome, Giselle. Good to see you there. All right, folks. Well, I'll start the kind of soft onboarding here while we wait for Gregory to join us. So it is Thursday. Gosh, I don't even know what day of the week, or August 17th. There we are. That's where we are on this planet. Things are really moving as always. Sorry, I'm just inviting Gregory. And moving as always, our teams are, a variety of folks are preparing to gather here to discuss a bunch of things that are moving in Regen ecosystem. There's some folks traveling to Climate Week, which is going to be exciting. There's all of our Gitcoin folks, some of our treasured partners and friends in the community who are working, organized folks to donate at the moment, which is always a fun and hot time on Twitter, all the shill fest. So we'll get into that a little bit today. We have an exciting announcement around Eco Token, connecting Regen and Solana ecosystems. So we can talk about that. So we're going to dig into all of that. My erstwhile co-host Gregory Landau chiming in from the eastern side of this country. I'm on the western side. As always, Gregory, are we in, as we say, chromatic splendor yet over in your neck of the woods? Or how is our season of weather doing at the moment? And what are the trees saying?
The trees are still green. There's the first little hints of yellowing I've been seeing this last week. It is very wet. Um, can you hear me okay, Dave? Just to double check, sound check
Yeah, you
in
sound
case.
great. You're doing great.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, so it's wet. It's rainy. We're just coming up on yeah, I mean the goldenrod is blooming here. Uh, Bee balm and echinacea and other flowers like that are all in full bloom. So it's a very beautiful moment. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, sweet corn is in and has been for a little while, and it's kind of this peak little last moment of summer, and it'll be summer here until, or like similar kind of weather pattern until it starts to cool off. And I don't know, I think we probably get our first frost in mid to late September, depending on you know climate and weather. So that's kind of the status here, but rainy and wet, which is a blessing. It's good to
Yeah,
have enough water.
blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of weather, actually, I just wanted to also, this is our first Regenerati News Hour since all of the tragedy in Lahaina in Hawaii. It's a place that I visited a few times, and I've friends of friends who've lost homes. And anyhow, I just, yeah, sending a big shout out. My wife is from Hawaii, to all the families and community members over there. Just what a devastating moment. I think another call to action to continue to engage with the planet as best we can. But if you have family or friends out there, send in some good love to them. Anyhow, I see our friends, Ishmael, a colleague of mine, and a part of the Econavi team, EcoToken, Ogallala. I've invited you up. Same Sev, I've invited you up. I'm trying to figure out, maybe Gregory, you can try to invite up folks as well. I know Breno's trying to get up as well, and Enzo. So for some reason, I'm trying to hit it up and it's not working quite yet. So I'll try again here in a moment. Maybe Gregory, you want to kind of give us, before we get into the details of some of our fellow grant seekers out in the Gitcoin round, just anything moving for you as getting toward the end of summer. We're moving into what looks to be quite a busy fall within the ecosystem. I'm curious to get kind of where life's hitting you right now when it comes to Regen Network kind of opportunities and some of the things that are in front of us that are really front of mind for you that might be worth sharing with the community.
Awesome. Well, excited I'm super excited for this conversation with everybody here. Excited about all of the different projects that are going to be chatting and kind of the movements. I'm excited for Sunflower's rebranding from Ecolab. Excited to hear about that, Sev. Excited to hear about Econavi's app and regenerative agroforestry work and EcoToken's work bridging to all sorts of ecosystems, and Oglala's work doing restoration on the Great Plains. There's just so much stuff going on. I just want to make sure everybody just take a moment for those of you who are here, maybe, and just do, probably a lot of you have, but just do a quick retweet and, make sure to invite folks that you would like to have in this conversation. Those of you who are up on stage, just so we make sure to be targeting it. I want to just sort of start out with some framing, because I'm just struck by how complicated the narrative. I want to call out how complicated and polarized communication is getting about the work that we're all doing together, and how having like real conversations that boost each other and kind of like dig into the details of the work that we're trying to do is an ever increasing rarity. And instead we get these really weird, polarized, strange conversations. And, two examples of that I just want to note on here on the platform formerly known as Twitter is, recently in our world and region sort of Cosmos corner, we've been getting beat up by a group of like anti-globalist WEF, World Economic Forum hating folks, for what I'm not entirely sure. Giselle, I'm not sure if you saw that, but we contributed, I just sort of want to speak on this for just a moment. We contributed to a sort of like knowledge generation process with a really big community. And Giselle, our lead scientist who's here in the room, did a lot of work just to kind of contribute to that. And it's under the auspices of the World Economic Forum. Other than that, we have no other relationship with them. And the fact that we contributed to this big community, sort of like fact and opinion gathering, as that we felt pretty flattered, I think, to be included as leaders in an emerging sector, to be able to put information into that and kind of, move the conversation forward. That fact is now being sort of weaponized to tell some very strange story about what Regen is and how that, and then it's like ESG this and corporate climate change that. And I don't know, it's a very strange and interesting reality distortion field experience. And I also kind of feel like there's a similar level of conversation going on around the shell funding of Gitcoin. And so I'm curious, in addition to everybody getting a chance to just like have the stage and talk about the amazing grounded work you're doing, I'd also like to offer the opportunity for sort of a safe space with in which we're dedicating context to unpack anything that you're wrangling with, any of these complex topics. So if there's something that's been on your mind, those of you who are coming up, this amazing group of folks who are doing great work in the world, if there's stuff that's coming up on that's on your mind and you're like, I'm really struggling with this piece of things or that piece, feel free to guide the conversation in that way. I feel really strongly like a core part of the essence of Regen Network, technology and markets aside, is the willingness to engage with reality and complexity without collapsing into sort of like some polarized fight in order to have a zero-sum game outcome. So just want to both like offer that broader context. It's like it just feels like that's the world that we're living in. That's the context of the platform we're having this conversation on even. And let's be conscious to like set that aside, listen to each other, um, and feel free and safe to like bring up stuff that you're chewing on, and let's all do our best to kind of like defend that space for each other so that we can actually have real conversations. So with that, I kind of want to I mean gosh, there's so many different conversations here to have, and I think I'd like to start, if it's okay, with Sev. Do you mind kicking us off, given your awesome rebrand and this is a new icon in front of us, and maybe just share some thoughts and share a little bit about what you guys are focusing on right now, and then we can kind of pass it around and get Oglala and Eco Token and Eco Navi up and kind of have an emerging conversation.
Absolutely. Hi, Regen folks. Hi, Gregory. Thanks for including me in the conversation here. On the sort of, I guess, controversies of the day, I feel like it's the nature, it's human nature to, you know, fall into these traps of using limited information to label things and ideas and organizations and whatever way they jump to conclusions. And I'm very thankful for spaces like this and communities like this that can engage in nuance and complexity. And I think that it's the platforms and the spaces that you spend your time in. It's, when you're having a one-on-one conversation or a small group conversation, like you can actually get into the nuance and of these complex topics. But yeah, it's just a consistent call to embrace complexity, embrace diversity in all things, diversity of ideas, diversity in biodiversity, diversity in everything. Maximizing biodiversity is something I've found is a good, relatively good principle. But yeah, on our rebrand and what we've been up to, I'm really excited about it. I think I shared a bit about this, but it's just this challenge with what we're working on, and it kind of speaks to these broader conversations of being angry at things. And there's a need to really just be optimistic and anchor our ethos in the inspiring, the uplifting, and make sure that's the focus. I have this philosophy on sort of net positive energy, which is you can put energy and effort into going against things. And that's still needed. We need people fighting against what's wrong in the world. But the amount of energy you have to put into that thing, whatever it is, to actually have a tangible impact on it is higher than what it takes to put energy into something new and get people excited about something, about an idea that's positive. And so it's um, from my perspective and experience, it's easier to put energy into things that are have just a positive vibe to them, right? And so Sunflower, the rebrand to Sunflower Ecotech is in sort of embracing that idea, and that this idea that sunflowers are this symbol of optimism, and hope, and the um, another interesting piece to it is like this idea of plants having agency and ecosystems having agency, and sunflowers are a great example of like being able to see that in real time as they follow the sun throughout the day. Like you can actually see their like sort of tangible agency in the world. Um, and happy to get into like all the stuff that we're working on, but I also don't want to like take up the too much of the time here. But so I'll stop there and pause. But uh, yeah, we have tons of great threads that we're working on.
Thanks for
Just making
go
my
ahead,
way.
Gregory.
Oh, sorry. I was just making my way back to the unmute. Thanks, Sev. That's great. Well, let's just do a quick round. That's a fantastic overview. And maybe before we move on, like given the sort of like, I guess, holistic style of engagement that Sunflower is modeling, I am also curious if you had to just sort of distill the essence and the most important thing, if you had to pick something that's like, this is what Sunflower is taking responsibility for, kind of in this broader ecosystem of things, and what we really think needs to be done. Do you mind just like
Yeah,
talking a little bit about making that explicit?
absolutely. So I like to break it down like this. So high level, the North Star is accelerating humanity's capacity to regenerate ecosystems faster than we degrade them. That's where we're headed. The one level deeper than that, or above that, is how do we make regeneration an occupation? How do we make it a viable career path? And then we've identified two big friction points in making that a reality. And so the goal, the more immediate, tangible goal, is working towards one, onboarding. How do we make it really easy for people to find their regenerative pathways, the pathway to making a regenerative income through origination of ecological assets, for instance, or the many different ways people are creating tokenized impact or other ways of compensating people for having a positive impact. We want to make a tool for finding that path really easy based on people's um, their skills, their resources, their geography, um, their interests. Uh, if they're interested in being a potential regenerator, and this idea of a regenerator becoming a new job title or a side hustle, a climate hustle, um, then this should be a go-to platform for that. And then the second piece is that the proof of impact at really small scales is difficult because of the high costs associated with things, and a lot of the folks here are engaged in solving for that as well. But it's holding space and weaving technologies together to solve for low cost proof of impact at small scales. Those are the two big friction points that we're trying to address.
Awesome. Thank you, Sev. That's great. Well, I'm just going to pass it on, sort of walking through kind of icon, passing around clockwise here from the top. So, Will from Oglala, do you want to? Good morning.
Yeah.
And do you want to give us a little overview of what you're cooking up and how you're doing?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning. Yeah, things are okay here. Texas, there's just like some like political ugliness happening that's ugly. But like our work, everything's going pretty well. We did a lot of like check dam stuff in February, and then we got a whole bunch of rain, like more than a year's worth of rain. And those that didn't wash out are doing really well. They caught a lot of soil and sediment, and just you can see a lot of changes. And then we've been kind of planning what are we going to do, next year, because kind of like our working season is the winter, before the growing season, before the rainy season, because they correspond here. And so, yeah, we've been planning out our work this winter, and I'm pretty excited about it. There's a few things that are kind of up in the air, but it should be so. Like our pilot this year was suboptimal, primarily because it wasn't easily publicly accessible. We couldn't like engage a bunch of neighbors or Boy Scouts to go out and do stuff because it was on private property, and they weren't, it was just it was tricky. And we think that we're going to be able to do some work on like kind of true kind of community. It's not public property, but it's open to membership. It's a nature center, and so we're excited about that. The Web3 stuff it's hard. It's just like it's so much is falling apart. And a year ago, or a little over a year ago, kind of thought we could change the world. And yeah, optimism is a little harder to find. But happy to be here. I don't know. Was that how's that for answer?
It's great. And tell us just really quickly about what this Gitcoin round, like what are you going to be focusing on, sort of project wise? I mean, independent of the Gitcoin round, I guess, but like what's next? What are you building?
Yeah, well, no, that's excellent. So again, we kind of have like our physical, like our local stuff going, and it's good, but it's not transformative. And that's what we want to kind of get back to is that. So we have some like eco credit concepts that we really want to flesh out, and we want to do that well with y'all in part. And it's tricky. There's some aspects to it that are like different from a carbon focused credit, but it's doable, I think. And so we want to get back to that kind of stuff. We want to get back to working on the tech and yeah, there's also some governance and like kind of like, so USF, what is his like territory or whatever within this space, and that helps. So I know what ours is, and that is like a bioregion, and so we have a bioregion, the High Plains, which is like the ecology of which is totally dominated by access to clean water, and the only clean water is groundwater because it's a semi-arid area. And so we're water centered, and so we have like our bioregional territory that we're trying to help, and then and then the intersection with refi or Web3, because for example, there's carbon buyers out. They're making offers to lease or to generate carbon credits by leasing rangeland, and so these cattle operators are like, kind of free money, but they're fishy. There's so many problems with it. And I try to tell them that, like, really, I think their best option right now might be Regen, and they look at us like we're nuts, and that's a shame. We gotta flesh out and mature these distributed options of incentivizing land use or governing our like voluntarily governing our use of water.
Fantastic, thanks, Will. Well, let's keep it moving and get Alpha Biota and Bruno up here to jam about EcoNavi and where you all are at and where your focus is. And then I think James from EcoToken after that. And then we can kind of move into conversation phase.
Hey, Greg. Nice to hear you guys. Do you hear me well? Yeah, I guess so.
Yep, sound great.
So yeah, great listening to all of your updates. Congratulations, Sev, on the brand development. It looks really cool. The sunflower, I really like it. And I also would like to sympathize with Greg with concerns, with annoyances, and maybe some hard conversations going everywhere. And I was thinking also about this shell thing in the Gitcoin. And one thing I think that in life and in business in general, there is always gonna be a group that will like put in doubt the choices. So either like for example, if Shell wasn't putting a lot of uh, putting some money in this round, like there would be a group of people that would say, oh, why don't you get you don't get these incentives for the community, because with this way you can increase support. So in any case there will always be some controversy, and I think in life we should just move forward and focus on our practice, that what we are doing. So I really enjoy. I think for all of us in Econavi, we really enjoy to be part of the Regen network community, because we see a lot of good things going on, and practice and movements in the field. Like Will was talking about this experiences that he's having there in the field. So we see like everyone here is trying to move forward with regeneration, and that's what really excites people in the end of the day. So I think that's the most important. In the end of the day, we want to see land being regenerated. We want to, boost activities in the ground, on the ground. And that's kind of the path that Econavi has been, walking through. We have been focusing a lot on the practical part of regeneration. So we see that the community of projects in the website, in the platform, they're bringing a lot of educational perspective, and I think that's what's kind of engaging a lot the community, because different projects want to see the strategies that other projects are adopting. So we really think that that's where the value right now is to be found. So sharing all this kind of innovation in the field, like we work a lot with agroforestry, but when we talk about regeneration, there are so many things on the table, right? So management of waters or sustainable building, and there are so many techniques, that you can't really find on the internet. So like you see all the time that people find a solution for something on the irrigation or on the way that the trees are organized. So it's always cool to see what others have achieved. And in this sense, like to just uh, to break the wall of controversies. I don't know if this would be the best uh, expression in English, but in the like I'm saying, the end of the day, building good quality regeneration. That's what's give us energy to keep going, and it's been really exciting until now. And yeah, thanks talking to all of you here. Maybe Ishmael wants to say something also. We have recently updated some things in the website, and it's looking really nice.
Hey, Breno, thanks so much for that excellent kind of bird's eye view of everything that's going on in our area industry of regeneration, and also tying that back to what we're doing at Econavi. So basically, we're a platform, a community of regenerators, and this community is growing and interacting every day with the site. We are gamifying the process of regeneration. So we're making it fun, we're making it hip, we're making it cool to be a regenerator. So we've got people coming to the site every day posting their activities, and we're actually using the Web3 incentives that we're accumulating and distributing to the regenerators, rewarding them for their efforts. So not only do they get social rewards for being one of the top generators on the leaderboard, but we're also able to support them with the funds from Regen Validator and also from Gitcoin and other investors. Recently, we've been included in a startup bootcamp accelerator. So we have a team of advisors now consulting and helping us to narrow down our product market fit and bringing our product to market, revising the strategy and fine tuning it. So we launched this system, and currently we're going through iterations of improvement and onboarding more and more users. We've made it much easier now for anyone to open up an account with one click, your Google account. Now you can get a crypto address. We're working both with EVM and IBC. We think that's going to be basically what TCP/IP becomes in the future. So we're shooting for this kind of when there's the browser wars and everything kind of converged around Mozilla and WebKit. So there's going to be a convergence, we believe, and so we're preparing for this new standard, and we think it's going to be somewhere in that realm between EVM and IBC. So we're preparing our smart contracts and all of the wallet interfaces to work with both of those protocols. Let's see. So yeah, we're based in Brazil. We've got a large community that's growing. They're getting out there. They're regenerating. And we're looking for more and more ways to accelerate the regeneration process to remunerate. And yeah, it's been a blast. We're so stoked to be a part of Regen Network and part of this community. Thanks, Dave from Lower Labs for inviting us, and Gregory from Regen Network, and everyone that's here. It's great to hear about your projects, and looking forward to much more in the future. So with that, I'll stop and hand it off.
Awesome. Thanks, Ishmael. I'm super excited about the work that you're doing, and at some point would love to, maybe have another Regenerati News Hour where we have a deeper, just kind of technical discussion about what people foresee as convergence around the technology, what the choices are, and how we can all do best to kind of be building together. So let's put a pin in that and kind of come back to it. And with that, I'd love to invite James to hop up and jam with us a little bit, share a little bit about EcoToken and the work going on to bring Regen Eco credits over to the Solana ecosystem, and the big news that's recent, if we can share about that, and just kind of share as well, like what's moving and shaking. What are you excited about?
Hey, Gregory, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, so I guess also very happy to chat about, Shell and World Economic Forum after. But yeah, basically we just launched our website, so you can now offset regen credits on Solana. And that's basically stage one of where we want to get to, which is kind of make regen credits accessible across as many chains as possible. And so the next step would be to add a retirable fungible token on other chains, so sort of a bridge that can allow for retired credits. So right now, anyone can basically log onto the site ecotoken.earth and offset on Solana as much as you want, and you get NFT verification for the offset. So what we do is we take the transaction hash from the retirement on Regen and then put it into the metadata of the NFT. You get a nice little impact certificate with the project that you supported on there, and then that'll be in your wallet as basically a proof of impact that can be used for token gating in Discord channels and all that. So you can have sort of a proof of offset to access certain Discord channels and whatever you want to do with that there. So yeah, that's the platform, and yeah, we're just gonna keep building that out and keep going. So hopefully we can add a lot more features in the coming months.
Love it. Yeah, I'm super excited, James, and it's just super clear and useful and exciting. So congrats on continuing to ship and launch, and really for everybody here. There's just so much moving. One big reflection for us is how do we get better at sharing all of the wins in the current climate? While I've still got you up here, James, what's your spicy and hot take on the WEF and Shell drama?
Well, for Shell, I think as a refi community, we really need to stop scaring away investment capital. I think every time that we kind of shame a company for trying to do good and bringing in capital in this space, it just hurts our cause, because that's going to scare other companies away from investing in us. And me personally, I think that there's no better way out there, no more bang for your buck out there than investing in refi and giving money to refi companies. I think that it has a bigger impact than just offsetting your emissions, because you're growing the pie. You're really having a much bigger and more lasting impact than a single time offset. So the more, I guess, companies get shit for investing in the company, they're just gonna, say, oh, okay, well, won't do that again. I'll just offset my emissions, and that it really hurts the movement. And then with the World Economic Forum thing, I think that that the pushback is probably a lot behind that whole "you'll own nothing and be happy" kind of motto that they're running with. And I think Regen's kind of the opposite of that. Regen kind of brings freedom to carbon offsets and allows basically anyone to just do what they're comfortable with, allows easy access to anyone, and basically democratizes the whole process, whereas the World Economic Forum seems to be all about centralization. So I think that that's kind of a nuanced approach to it that could be used as a bit of a, I guess, pushback to it.
Yeah, totally. I love that, and I guess I mean, and I agree, and I'm curious. This is kind of maybe take a quick crack at this, James, and then I'd love thoughts from other folks, and if audience members want to hop in on this as well. Question: what is to what degree should we be running kind of like an ideological purity test? So if an institution like the World Economic Forum, which is basically like a giant status club, where sort of like the elites of the world, shuffle status around and shine the spotlight on ideas or people or whatever's kind of in vogue, and it's kind of just like I don't know, at least to my mind, it's kind of like random, and it's just a meme amplifier. It's like an elite meme amplifier. To what degree do we say, because we disagree with core precepts of what they think is right at the moment, to what degree do you just sort of like ignore them, or not engage? Or to what degree do you like engage them and say, actually, you're wrong, and we need self-sovereign communities and control over like crypto wallets and control over standards processes to be distributed widely amongst a broad community, not centralized and bureaucratized and owned and operated by a corporate elite. Instead, we need to break that model, which I think is a huge part of what Regen Network is doing and why we chose Web3 in the first place. But to what degree do we, I guess, to what degree do we fall into this polarization trap where we're like, hey, we disagree with you and therefore we won't engage with you? That's just an open question.
Yeah, I would say just really quickly that it's probably really similar to the Shell argument, in that if they're going to add a huge opportunity for Regen and help Regen grow a ton, then you should take advantage. And just be able to kind of get across that nuanced view of like this is what we're building, this is what we're about, and this is how we're helping the World Economic Forum kind of adjust to more, or basically educate them on a more decentralized approach is the way I'd go about it. But I'll stop talking now and let other people chime in.
Other takes? Will, I'm curious about your perspective on this.
Well, so I talked to one of these carbon, I guess, project developers that are trying to sign up ranchers. And the last one I talked to, he'd sold a bunch of credits to Shell, and he was out there signing up projects, and he could do a lot better than he's doing, but at least he's doing it. I mean, isn't that kind of like the whole point of the carbon credit, or like the voluntary? I mean, we have a lot of unresolved philosophical problems. But yeah, like the whole point is to make the majors pay for polluting, and here's a major paying, and it's not nearly enough. But yeah, I think that's good. I
have a spicy take to interject here. This is, and just like disclaimer, I only partially, if at all, believe about what I'm going to say. But imagine, let's put our tinfoil conspiracy hats on. Who stands to gain the most by amplifying the anti-ESG, anti-corporate offsetting memes, such as carbon credits are merely and just a, in quotes, license to pollute, and therefore we should just do away with them? I would propose that the people who stand the most to gain from that whole sort of like movement that is actually the major oil companies. Because only recently, in like the last 5 years, has there been an activist process to connect carbon and other pollution as a liability on their balance sheets, right? And if they can delete that, if they can use this, like all of this muddying of the water, and get that stripped away from their fiduciary responsibility, then they get another decade to not pay for restoration, regeneration, abatement, and mitigation. So anyway, I'm kind of concerned actually that the muddying of the water is actually, in a weird way, being driven by exactly the people that it appears are being attacked. Thoughts?
I think you're 100% right. There's so much money that is like dirty money if fossil fuels are dirty and if natural capital is accounted for, and they can't make it happen. And that's pouring into our political system, it's pouring into our media, it corrupts truth. We've got like big political questions to deal with, and I don't really know how refi engages, but we do need to figure it out.
I'd love to get a kind of global South perspective on this. Bruno, Ishmael, in Brazil, what's because kind of what we're talking about here is sort of like the memes and politics of our industry, right? In which there's like a counter narrative against ESG and maybe refi and other things emerging, and which is, maybe we should celebrate that, because it means that as a movement we've succeeded in being at least that relevant. But how do you see it in Brazil? Is there also sort of like a whiplash or a counter narrative, or are people broadly across the political spectrum excited? What's moving down there in relationship to this bigger question?
Thanks, Greg. That's an excellent question, and those were great thoughts that were being put here. So I say that there is indeed this counter narrative, but there is, I would say that there is much more excitement for what can be achieved. And so, like as we talk about Shell, I mean, also in the end of the day, everybody is using petrol, even people that are regenerating now. You know, if you have to use a tractor, you have to sell some product in the market. So, it's still a thing that is used by all of us. And from my perspective, what I understand is that, if people, it's also a challenge for people in the ground, for farmers, for field people that wants to make a transition for energy efficiency. If there are these funds available, if they are coming from the ones that supposedly are the ones that are polluting more. So, if people can manage and make these funds work out to create the solutions that we need, then in the midterm, even the petrol, it will not be necessary. So, the whole thing is about converting this energy, let's say, and using this financial power that they're putting in availability, and taking back from what you're saying about narratives and these kind of things. So I really see that the world is polarizing everything. From times in times there's always some hard polarizations. And I think we just have to move in true feet, and not take it totally serious. None of these extreme concerns. Of course, there will be these counter narratives, and from a philosophical standpoint, like you said, Greg, it's actually interesting, that a counterpoint comes up, which means that the arguments are strong, and there is, in philosophy, you're always testing, right, the logic and the arguments. So it can also be used to boost the narrative towards, funding carbon markets and these kind of things. So yeah, it's a bit worried that people get engaged in these polarizations, and don't see that you can take good things from both sides of a polarization. Nothing is totally divided like the way it seems. So we can criticize some aspects on ESG, right? So, but we can also show things that work. And I think there will be this debate. It's gonna be going, in the next years. Maybe this counter narrative comes stronger. But like I was saying before, like just focusing on uh, planting trees, bringing some cool practices to share. And like I feel that that's the energy that really moves forward.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Ed, you hopped up. Would you like to share any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess one of my continued frustrations is the lack of connecting with and collaborating with the decades of work of the regenerative movement that's been, so much work has been done, so much has been learned about, how to collaborate, how to transition. We just keep hearing of attending World Economic Forum, working with Shell, working with Climate Weeks, working with that. But where is the connection with the existing movement of regenerative that's very grassroots, very paradigm shift based, very active and getting incredible success? We're now estimating over 100 million acres in transition just in the United States. Science is advancing, biodiversity studies, soil testing, metagenomics, all kinds of things out of that grassroots movement. And a lot's happening. And, even in politics, we're getting into some of the, the USDA and government meetings on, future of agriculture. We're getting listened to now. It's a movement that now is, at least the term is now pretty well known across the world. and where that all came from and what we've learned and the mistakes we've learned to make. I mean, we were incredibly powerful in the 70s. We thought we had everything going, and then we got crushed in the 80s because we just didn't understand, the complications of a paradigm shift. And that's what we're really into. I mean, we don't need to tweak the system, like we've realized in agriculture. Just about everything we were doing now is 180 degrees different. And that's a huge mind shift change. And it takes a long time to understand those changes. And I just wish that, the connection between the original grassroots movement was, starting to happen soon.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. As someone, I worked in that grassroots movement, and I would say Regen Network is meant to be a gift and a service to that grassroots movement. Also, I mean, that seems. I think your critique is correct, that we're failing somehow to make meaningful connections with that movement and alternative institutions and bring them in to own and operate the network. I think that that's absolutely spot on critique. It's not for lack of trying, right? Our R&D has been collaborating with the USDA through Open Team. We've done significant contributions to the science on this. I think it's hard though. So from my perspective as sort of, I guess CEO of R&D, which is a public benefit corp, which is built and has bylaws to serve this broader movement, right? We also have to, we can only go so far in building infrastructure and doing support work, and we need folks like yourself and other folks to sort of take ownership and say, I will own this connection that I see isn't happening, and figure out a way to do it, because we can't do it all. And if there's a specific thing that we can do, we can try, but also we've got a lot on our plates. All of us do. And I think I just kind of want to bring it back to, this is always a challenge with movements, with grassroots movements, is that part of the challenge of making a paradigm shift like this happen is how easy it is to fragment a movement because everybody's scrambling for resources. And one of the core premise of Regen Network was always to have a community floating a new form of value sourced from a new paradigm together without it getting captured by venture capital, without it getting captured by legacy institutions. But the challenge is that requires a movement of individuals to take agency. You can't go and just, we don't have the capital to just go and fund people. We did as much funding as we could, and then that's it. We have to self-fund. We have to have agency. So, some of this I think is a narrative problem. How do we do a better job at storytelling? I tend to believe that there needs to be a plurality of stories, not a single story. But maybe that's wrong, and maybe we need to nail a single story that's more compelling. Or maybe all of us in this room, those of us on this stage, it's answering, what does Regen mean to me? Or what could Regen mean to the stakeholders that I'm passionate about? Whether those are smallholder agroforestry farmers in Brazil, or large acre regenerative ag farmers in Iowa, or grassroots community scientists around the world. How do we articulate and invite those stakeholders to become sovereign owner operators of a regenerative economic network? That's the key question, right? That is the core question that we're all living, I think. And your critique is 100% spot on, Ed, but sometimes it comes across to me as if I can do something about it. I can only do so much. The whole premise and paradigm shift is that we have to do something about it. And there'll be different answers for different stakeholders. With that, I want to, Giselle, welcome. Just want to get your voice in as well. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, if anyone is in another part of the planet. Yeah, so I just wanted to give my thoughts about, Gregory, I was on vacation. Honestly, I haven't been following any discussions or critiques from our participation in the World Economic Forum article, but I can see where those might be coming from. Our aim, I just wanted to tell our thinking, or at least mine, with that article in particular, so it's hard to see why they are criticizing it. We were actually having the opportunity to bring a voice around the importance of increasing transparency in the voluntary carbon markets, bringing technology. We were also advocating for open source MRV protocols, and we were talking about interoperability and transparency across exchanges and platforms, building systems and not silos. All of those things are mentioned in the article, and I think it was really important that we could bring that voice into that a constellation of companies or people. I do think that the more we can participate and put our voice in those powerful and decision-making, I would say, global decision-making spheres, it's the better for everyone, and I think it's good for the movement. And I don't see a possibility for scaling up and really succeeding if we don't get everyone in the same page. And at the same time, I have been, as a scientist that comes from the academia, I have been a big advocate of having more science development and more funding for science regarding all the applied science that needs to be developed yet to track the changes in the ecosystems, to track the outcomes from all the good management, and to really advocate for regeneration in a solid way. So we need more science, we need more investment, and we need more funding to do that. So I think there's a middle ground between kind of the religion and the extreme thoughts of those who believe that there's no other way than just doing everything right and everything for the planet and giving away everything that it's in opposition to the good for the climate and the planet. And those that are simply probably more dedicated to generate incomes or that just have other objectives. And there's a middle ground there to do, I guess, to try to find the best of both worlds, combining into something that it's good for everyone. So yeah, that's the vision. That's the way we have been thinking. I think we are going to be continuing participating in those, unless there's a, something that we haven't thought about that might be counterproductive for the movement in a sense. But I think there's a win-win if we have a voice there. I just want to share.
Yeah, thank you, Giselle. Well, I just want to, I talk. We've run out of time here, so I apologize. I can't get you the mic here this time, but thanks for hopping up, and shout out to Shamba Network. And in addition to the fine folks you've heard here who have Gitcoin rounds, Shamba is doing amazing work and is also up on Gitcoin. And so I just want to, I'll do my just like my shill duty for everybody here. Everybody here is working really hard. Many of them, Sunflower Labs and Econave and Shamba, And I don't know, James at EcoToken, I'm not sure if you guys are on Gitcoin. Are you guys on the Gitcoin round?
Well, the water DAO is.
WaterDAO, awesome.
So.
And WaterDAO, fantastic. Oh, great. So, and WaterDAO on Gitcoin are all, all available to be funded. And the cool thing about Gitcoin is little tiny support. You may even end up paying more in gas than you do in actual donations. You're voting and guiding from your wisdom what you think that those resources should flow to. And these are all really fantastic projects and leaders taking agency to solve problems. So definitely everybody has my hearty endorsement. I really appreciate everybody both taking the time to tune in and taking the time to contribute to the conversation. Rock on, and hasta la regeneración siempre. We're always engaging with this complex living edge of what it means to, as Ed provoked, invoke and support the paradigm shift that we're all trying to serve. And that brings up exciting topics every time we have Regenerati News Hour. So please continue to tune in, bring your friends, and bring the most important topic of conversation that you would like to digest here with community members. And thanks again, and I'll see you all soon, either on a community call or on the next edition of Regenerati News Hour. And thanks, Dave, for hosting as always.